Well, hello again, people. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to discuss tithing, which is a most important topic. And it's from paper number 161. Tithing is common to many religions. Some leaders have made high demands on their followers, even preaching up to 3 separate tithes at a time. This paper investigates tithing in the Bible and draws conclusions relevant to Jews and Christians today. Persons who have paid 3 tithes are in for some pleasant surprises. You won't believe how much money you'll save. It is truthful, and we'll now hand over to Wade.
Thanks, Roger. Tithing is a system set by God in the law, and it's God's position, God's money, God's produce. So it's not a matter of your money. If you don't tithe, you rob God. That's the biblical position, and that's God's view of the position. Now, the increase, the tithe is 10% of the increase of your flocks and your herds and your grain and your income. There is a second tithe, which is for you, so that you can attend the feasts. You can assist others, you can help your family, you can help your friends and relatives, and you can give gifts of that second tithe to the ministry, the Levites who don't have a tithe system, they're dependent upon you, and whatever else you can do. Now, there is a thing called a third tithe. That third tithe is the second tithe in the 3rd year of the Sabbath cycle. Not every 3 years. The Sabbath cycle is a 7-year cycle, and in the 3rd year of that cycle, your second tithe is converted to the 3rd tithe, which is the welfare tithe, and that's placed in the treasury for the welfare of those women, widows and orphans, and the people who are crippled and who are disabled and various other reasons for which they are on necessitous circumstances. Now, being placed in those circumstances is not a matter of judgment. It's a matter of helping people out of the tithe. The first tithe goes for the administration at the temple, which basically pays for the entire structure of tax and administration. And that's what's supposed to happen, so that you have a 10% flat tax, and the 10% second tithe is your own welfare, so that you keep the laws of God. You go to the feast. There are 3 feasts a year, and when you go to the feast, you make an offering at the beginning of each of those feasts. You don't give 2 offerings a feast. You don't give 7 offerings a year based on every holy day, which has been the unscrupulous teachings of the 20th century and into the 21st century. The people, the ministry who force those systems will be punished. do not concern yourselves about it all. God will deal with them. Now, there are only 3 offerings a year. There's not one every week, as you get in the Trinitarian churches. There's not, in fact, one of the churches of God, we went to one and they had 5 offerings on the Sabbath, which is, you're not supposed to take up a collection on the Sabbath at any circumstances,
right.
But they had 5. Now, that just makes a mockery of the laws of God. It is forbidden to take up an offering on atonement under any circumstances, because it was a census tax which Christ paid for when he was executed. His death paid that tax for you. Nobody can pay it for you. It's already been paid, and nobody can give an offering. God says, no man shall give more or less than another at the tax. But the tax was paid for by Christ. So there is no tax on atonement. There's no offering. There's no structure of any passage of funds on the Day of Atonement. It is most holy and cannot be profaned. There is another levy called a teruma levy, which is to assist the administration in the provision of the temple sacrifices, and that will be resumed again under Ezekiel's temple, and you'll see that in the commentary on Ezekiel over the last number of chapters through 9, 10, 11 and 12, parts 9, 10 and 11 and 12. But that we'll be concerned with that when Christ gets here, and the witnesses will give more instructions on that when they're here. We assist along those lines as a poor tax when we feel compelled to do that on an annual basis. So basically, you've seen tithing, you've seen the law. This paper tells you everything about it. It's academically sound. It's correct, and the academics say that it is the correct doctrine on tithing. And many academics publish this or give it to those who are trying to study and find the truth on tithing.
And Wade, I know there's some groups out there that have a thing that they call the excess second tithe. And what they say to their people, listen, you collect your second tithe only for the Feast of Tabernacles, because they don't teach the correct idea of the pilgrimage for all the three feasts.
Yeah, three
pilgrimage feasts. And they say anything you've got left at the end of the Feast of Tabernacles must be sent to the headquarters of the church. And of course, that's absolutely wrong, isn't it?
Agreed.
It's theft. Right.
You cannot be compelled for the second tithe is the families, and it's there for the family to give whatever help they need to give to whoever they need to give it, right, or decide to give it.
Right.
But it's certainly not excess tithe if you don't spend it. It means that it encourages people to spend unnecessarily at the feasts.
Right.
And that's not the way it works. Whatever they give in that offering at the beginning of the feast is the problem. But there are 3 feasts, and the most important feast is the Passover, because that has the Lord's Supper, and that is the second sacrament of the church, beside baptism. The second feast is Pentecost, which is part of the Omer count from the wave sheaf through to the receipt of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost as it was after the death of the Messiah.
Right.
It is a mandatory feast. It's the third of the great feasts, and everyone must keep it.
The Feast of Tabernacles.
Feast of Tabernacles. And when Christ gets here, everybody in the world will be keeping the feast, and they will have appointed their delegates, and there will be a minimum of 2 delegates per nation sent to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles. And the purpose of that is to have them briefed on the instructions on the world administration for the next year.
Right.
And they will come every year, and if they don't go, they will then be punished. The heavens will be shut. They'll get no rain in due season.
Zach 14, right.
Yes, and the plagues of Egypt will be inflicted on them.
Right.
So they'll start to die. And then if they don't come the next year, it'll just exacerbate until they all die.
Right.
And the laws of God are not to be trifled with.
There's no wriggle room, is there at all?
No. The nexus of the law was broken by Satan so that the world could be tested and he could prove that none of us humans were worth being made into Elohim. That was the purpose of breaking the nexus of the law. That's the purpose of creating insubordination amongst these religions that he created so that they could be diverted from the laws of God and the religion and worship of the one true God under the high priest, who is Messiah. Now that structure is all maintained on the laws governing tithing. And if you don't tithe, and there are many people who don't think they can afford to tithe because they only earn $2 a day or something. If you think like that, you're not one of the elect. You're not in the first resurrection, and I'm afraid you're robbing God, and there's no other explanation for it. Think of the widow's mite. Christ watched the widow place all she had into the offering, into the treasury. So
you can't get a greater sacrifice than that.
no, it was all of a living.
So that says to us that whatever we have, whatever we earn as a net, not on the gross, doesn't matter how little it is, we have to give that 10%.
Yes, and all of us do that. And in case you're worrying, we don't get paid.
No.
No CCG officer is paid, and we tithe under the same laws that the brethren tithe.
And Wade, I must say what I found very interesting in this was the understanding of that second tithe, that remains in the person's individual care.
Yeah.
And is carried over from feast to feast. So if they're at the Passover and unleavened bread at the beginning of the year, and they're keeping that outside their gates as they should, as they would the Feast of Tabernacles, and they have money at the end, they keep that, and that transfers over to the next feast. And if
correct.
They're second tithing leading up to that feast, so they're topping up what they've already got. It then carries over to the Feast of Tabernacles, and it tops up again, and at the end of the Feast of Tabernacles, they top it up again, and it leads back to the next cycle of the Passover.
Yes, and over the 7 years of the Sabbath cycle, you end the 7 years with the reading of the law. Now, at the 7th year for the reading of the law, you can have saved that second tithe up over the previous 6 years so that you can afford to go to Jerusalem if you wish to in the Sabbath year. You can afford to go anywhere you like, and not keeping and accumulating that second tithe prohibits you from going to feasts in an extended basis.
Right, could leave you short.
Could leave you short. You wouldn't have enough money to take your family to Jerusalem or wherever you want to the capital or some place that the national system has dedicated as a reading of the law, or you can go to another area and the reading of the law based on the tithes that you saved from the second tithe.
Right.
So look, in short then, those out there that are telling their people, you send me your second tithe, are just outright hypocrites, liars and thieves.
Thieves.
Right.
That's what they are. To do that to the brethren, you're just rendering them to the who's. And that's Ezekiel 34, and that's why they're punished. And in these last days, that's why the brethren are judged on how they treat each other.
Right.
And that's the principle of brotherly love in the Church of the Philadelphians.
And look, people, how we'd like to teach you or treat you, go and read this paper. It's Tithing, paper number 161, very important. It'll open your eyes up to actually the structures that some of you are stuck in and how false they really are. Thank you, Wade.
Thank you, Wade.
Good, Dylan.